Good morning. As you can see, I have put makeup on, which is quite honestly groundbreaking considering I don't really wear makeup at all. Only if I have to, I will put on the smallest bit of makeup just to make myself feel a little bit more socially acceptable. This is a groundbreaking moment in history for YouTube on Araya Poly Studio, so don't ever expect this again because I hate wearing makeup. Today we are going to be looking at Rightmove photos from when I first put an offer in on this apartment a couple of years ago now, or just over a couple of years ago now. And we're going to be comparing what it used to look like versus what it looks like now. So I've got some nice before and after pictures to go through and to really document how far we've come, style ideas that I took from the first owners, and how the space feels really different because looking back at these photos, I remember the day that I walked the door for the first viewing, and I think they actually styled it really, really well, and that's what kind of sold the apartment to me. It was quite easy to envision myself living there as is, and I do think that really helps when you're buying or you're selling a property, is if it's presented well, of course it's going to be popular. And just a bit of a backstory around my apartment. I was living at home through the first COVID lockdown at my parents', which is just around the corner from me. So I used that opportunity to start looking for my first place, which was obviously a really fortunate position to be in, and also really exciting because I actually had the time to save up a bit more money and have a browse at what's on the market and get some inspiration, and just the time to really do my research. I actually had an offer put in on a different apartment which was just up the road, and I fell in love with that. It was a new build, very similar in layout, they've all got the living, kitchen, diner, one room aspect. The only difference was the first apartment was a ground floor and had mainly kind of laminate wood floorings throughout, which was a real bonus. But that unfortunately fell through because the COVID rates, mortgage rates at the time were through the roof. It just didn't work out, unfortunately, and I was heartbroken. Let me tell you, I was absolutely heartbroken. So that fell through on the Thursday of that week, and then on the Friday I thought, I'll use this time to have a look to see what else is out there. This is obviously a sign it's not going to work, it's not for me, it's the universe is pointing me somewhere else, whatever. And this apartment that I'm living in now came on the market on the Friday, so the following day. I said to my parents, I think this is it. I genuinely think this is the right place for me. So I was calling the estate agents, trying to get a viewing booked in, and no one was picking up because it was about 4 o'clock on the Friday. And I knew, looking at the listing, that it was going to go fairly quickly. Sent lots of emails over the weekend, lots of calling just to try and get a viewing. And they were really rubbish at getting back to me, which is really annoying. Obviously not the vendors, they were amazing, but I ended up getting a viewing on the Monday of on the Tuesday of the following week, and came here with my mum. And yeah, as soon as I walked through the door, I just felt like this is definitely the right place for me. And it's a one bed flat. There's not a lot of variation in what you can get, but even just the area and the layout and the look and feel of the building just felt right. So yeah, had a look around and instantly fell in love, and I think probably partly because the way it was styled helped. All these factors added up. So I was the first viewing, the very first viewing, and I put in an offer that same afternoon, and the rest is history. And I'll talk you through kind of my initial design styling ideas. When I first moved into here, obviously it was a clean slate, all the furniture moved out. I was really minimalistic in my style, and still, this is really early days, it's your first property, you never really know how to style it in a way that's going to work for you. Well, I hadn't lived alone yet. I've always lived with parents. I didn't go to university, so I've never had that experience of completely having my own space to go wild in. Let me tell you, my childhood bedroom has had many experiments, many different designs, styles over the years, from groovy chic to, at one point it was like bright yellow with pink sunflowers. My mum stenciled when I was a child. That's what I wanted. So that's just my mum and stepdad made that happen, to very chic, I would say. There was a point where it was all very French chic, lots of Laura Ashley in there, to then, yeah, more of a minimalistic style. So I wanted to take that with me into this apartment and see what I could do. Now, this is a standard one bed, newish build. It was 2 years when I moved in, 2 years old, so fairly new. No character whatsoever, unfortunately. The ideas I saw on Pinterest and the inspiration I saw on Pinterest was all in beautiful loft conversions or Parisian apartments or London terraced houses with high ceiling and various different pieces of historical architect within the building. And this place just doesn't have that. And this goes back to my advice on try not to blueprint from the inspiration that you see on Pinterest, because it just doesn't transpire into your space as you would imagine it would. So there was an element of learning along the way about taking the inspiration but not taking it as textbook or as a blueprint, because it just doesn't make it feel homely. It feels copied and not authentic. It just looks odd in the space. I quickly found that out with the pieces that I was buying. There was lots of chopping and changing, and this is all grateful for Facebook Marketplace, because that enabled me to buy on a lower budget and to buy secondhand. It wasn't wasteful. I did a lot of researching and chopping and changing until I really was happy with what I've got. And I've still got a long way to go, as you'll see in the video here when I talk through the different rooms and where it is now and what I plan for the next year or two. There's still a long way to go, and I think the style will always change, but I really feel that I've settled into my own personal style, especially over the last 6 months. And to give a bit of context, my boyfriend moved in a few months ago now, and his masculine take and style has brought the place together, which was really surprising for me, because prior to having him here, to living together, I had a real feminine touch, I would say, within my style, but that masculine aspect has really helped tone down those softer elements of the space. It's been a journey since I first moved in, and the first few months were literally, we had a sofa was the wrong size for the room. I measured it wrong, but had already ordered it. So top tip of mine, wait until you're in your space before ordering big pieces of furniture, because when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. And yeah, TV on the floor, which was also, TV was far too big for the space and still is far too big for the space, but they're expensive. That was an expensive mistake to make. Take your time, measure 3-4 times, because it's not always going to be right the first time, as I established quite quickly. Style is still evolving, very much so, and I really do embrace it now, and things I see on the internet I do try to embrace and think, is this just a trend, or is there a way I can make this more timeless? It's all about experimenting, and it's the most fun thing to do when you've got your own space and you can go wild, you can do what you want. It is so fun. The possibilities are completely endless, which is also kind of a double-edged sword, because it soon becomes quite expensive. And instead of going out for drinks, I'd rather be at home painting and DIYing and spending my money on that. Yeah, it is a double-edged sword, but such is life. The first room that I'm going to talk through is the main room. So the kitchen, diner, living room. Looking at the photo from the befores, I don't think they saw it as their forever space, which I totally understand. I don't see this space as my forever space. There is only so much you can do with a 1-bedroom apartment. But what I really like is that they've tried to divide the room like I have with my cabinet. So I think they've used a Kallax IKEA unit with lots of books in, and they've got some nice alcohol, like on a alcohol tray there. So I like that about this, and I like the fact that they've got unique books. I remember walking in, my mum goes to me, "Oh, they've got some unusual books," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's quite cool actually." And that goes back to the thing I said the other day on my video, is that making your house a home is having those enigmas in your space. So yeah, love that. The table in the kitchen, I don't know where that's from actually. Very basic, and you can tell that it's not with longevity in mind. The only thing I would say is I don't really like the pine dining table, and I did note that when I first went in. I think it kind of clashes with the kitchen cabinets and the neutrals. So we've got brown glossy kitchen cabinets, which I really don't like. I tried covering them once, which was an absolute fail. I think they're just going to have to stay as is. As you can see on here, so the kitchen cabinet handles were like a real silver thick metal, and so I've changed those out now to a matte black, as you can see in the photo, and I feel like it tones it down a bit, it looks less girly. So the matte black has really made the cabinets look a little more masculine and less tacky, not to be rude. And then I just feel like they needed the artwork that they've got in here. I really do like, but I think there's just so much wall space that is plain white wall space. I think they could have done more in terms of open shelving in the living room. Obviously, you've got the TV in the corner there, and then you've got the big round black mirror, which I also really like. But again, there's just so much white and wall space that could have been filled differently. Having that artwork in the middle on the back wall, I don't know if you can see, it just looks really, really random, and it's not big enough for the wall space. Along with the lampshade in the living room, it just doesn't add anything to the space. It's literally an IKEA one, which is fine, but I think because of the living room and how bare it is, it just needs a bit more. And you can do that with artwork, open shelving, the lighting that you choose. It's a really easy way. Like even a lamp in the corner, like a floor lamp coming over the sofa, would just help the space, I think, add a bit more moody lighting. I like the plant that they've got in the corner by the fridge on the end, and the chair. Obviously they've got lots of little stools, which is good for additional seating. I like the layout. I like the way that they've, as I said, separated the kitchen from the living room. I like that a lot, and I like the fact that they've backed the sofa onto the unit. And the coffee table, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but it's like a wooden coffee table. So they've incorporated lots of different tones of wood and natural colours, which I do really like. The wishbone chair, sucker for a wishbone chair, lots of textures going on. And then the curtain rail in there as well. I was actually going to ask them if they could leave that behind, but I bottled it and I just bought one similar, but it's just not quite the same. My one from IKEA, it cost about £5, I think, and then plus the fittings and stuff. So I took inspiration from the curtains because I really like that sheer look. I think it really helps make the room feel a little lighter. The problem with having big bulky curtains in a room like that is that it takes up too much space, and visually the white sheer curtains are much easier to fit into the room and to feel a little bit more seamless. Yeah, there's not much else I have to say about the living room as such. Obviously, the tiling and the carpet is not ideal, but in our block of apartments, you're not actually allowed to change the carpet out for anything other than like vinyl flooring, I believe. So it makes it really tricky to have nice flooring. I don't like the carpets in here, but I just think it's just not worth spending the money on vinyl flooring, which I don't know if I'll like anymore. I know vinyl's come a long way. There's lots of companies now that offer better quality vinyl laminate flooring, but I think it's just not worth the money at the moment. It's not worth the investment. But yeah, that's one thing I would change is having wood flooring throughout from the kitchen through to the living room. Just to add, in the kitchen, they had, you can't see it in the pictures, but they had lots of plants, lots of herbs, and they had a piece of artwork on this wall behind me you can't see in the picture, but instead of the open shelving, they had artwork, which was really nice as well. So they definitely try to incorporate more homely features such as artwork, plants, herbs, indoor-outdoor living, as you would have seen in my last video, to make the space feel as natural and at home as possible. Yeah, really well done in terms of layout and styling. And then looking at my space now, you may have noticed that there was a door there in the living room. We had to remove that door because the only way the sofa could fit in the room comfortably as is was on that back wall. So we had to remove the door, which is now storing under the bed. Not ideal, but it definitely helped to utilise the space in a way that we could live more comfortably. Again, utilising your imagination and breaking the mould a little bit, removing a door and just having an archway is not the end of the world, as long as it's not a fire door. Just thinking outside the box to see how it can work best for you. In all honesty, before we did the green wall on the back there, it felt much the same. It felt very clinical as before in the Rightmove photos. It was really hard to make the space feel homely and cozy. So adding that green wall with the shelving on the back has really helped to bring the space alive and to make it feel a little bit more put together. And despite I've still got a long way to go in filling the shelves, which I need to get back onto doing because I've let that one slide a little bit, I do think it feels a lot more cozy. It has a lot more personality to the space. We are struggling a little bit with the sofa just because it's white in colour, as you can see. The covers do come off, but they look a bit worse for wear now. We've had 2 years of use out the sofa, so that would be my next advice. Is that sofa was from IKEA, and whilst sofas I know are so expensive, it's definitely worth investing in something that's going to be long lasting and durable. I just feel like the sofa really lets the space down, unfortunately. That would be the next thing to change out. If budget wasn't the question, that would be the next thing on the project to change out, and we have talked about it. So lots of questions about that one. But overall, obviously we took inspiration from the curtains, so we very much mirrored what they had before in terms of the sheer curtains with the black rail. Really loved that. We've got lots of plants going on in the living room. The TV is too big for the space, but what can you do? And then the cabinet, we've done a similar thing in terms of separating the kitchen from the living room, which helps that element of segregation, socialising and living. It helps with me working from home. I'm working behind the TV, so Jack can still come home after he finishes work and live his life while I'm still working. We've tried to utilise the space as much as we can in that sense. And then with the kitchens, we've obviously added the different handles to the kitchen doors, which I think look much better. We have a round table, so I felt like with the previous owners having that square table, it felt too blocky in the room and the space. It needed like a round table to break up that feeling of everything has to be rectangular or square. So we've got a round table, round black wooden table, which does the job perfectly. That was Facebook Marketplace. It was in an old pub, I think. We've got the black metal leather chairs, which breaks up having too much wood in the space. It just adds a point of difference having that leather and the chrome. And then we've obviously got the open shelving wall bar unit thing behind us, which is definitely a focal point of the kitchen and a great way to change out and to freshen up the look by changing out the glassware, changing out the different bits of booze that we have on the back here, and adding the different lighting as well. So we've added the sconces above the shelving, which adds that warmth. We have about 16 overhead lights in this kitchen, which is crazy considering the size of it. No, it's not a massive kitchen. It doesn't need 16 overhead lights. Hey ho. The different mood lighting. So we've got the sconces above the bar unit. We've got the moon over the dining table. We've also got the cooker light that we put on. All those different things just help the atmosphere of the place, and I think that's really been a benefit to making it feel more homely. And then in terms of the plants, they obviously had a lot of plants in their kitchen, herbs and stuff. We followed the same style in adding plants, textures, aromas through herbs, which has helped the space feel a bit more alive. So the next room we're going to be looking at is the bathroom, which you all know this bathroom has changed massively since I moved in. I do really like the bathroom, and it's a bit controversial, but I do love that big mirror on the back. So the place I had viewed beforehand, the apartment I'd viewed first that fell through, they had a similar layout, very similar layout to the bathroom, but the mirror that they put on the wall above the shelving unit bit was like a tiny square, like plonked on the wall, and it just felt like such a cost-cutting exercise from the builders and the housing business. They could have just spent an extra, I don't know how much glass costs, but I don't think it's that expensive. Mirror is that expensive, and really utilise that space and put big mirror, which I have in our bathroom. So very grateful for that big mirror, because I know that most of the time they don't put a big mirror to fill the gap. They just plonk a little one, which is just so stupid. Anyway, I really liked this bathroom because of how relatively modern it feels. It's fairly inoffensive, very minimal, big white tiles, which I'm not mad about. I do quite like those, and then the grey tiles on the shower wall, which I'm not a fan of. I don't really like them. So as you can see, this bathroom 2 years ago to how it is now is very different. It was about a year in when I decided perhaps the bathroom would look a little bit more sexy, a bit more modern if it was dark colour. So I went online, had a look on Lit, and had a look at what colours would look good, and went for, I think it's black O2 eggshell, and covered as much as the wall as I could. So obviously the tiles go halfway up the wall, and on the shower that's all tile, so there's not actually an awful lot of wall space. So I did what I could. At first I wasn't going to paint the ceiling. I then painted up to the ceiling with the black paint, and it just looked really odd. So then I just took the paint across the ceiling, and I just feel like now the space feels way more luxurious and spa-like, and it's added a point of difference to the apartment. Before, I had painted the bathroom black. I'd repainted the apartment like with a white eggshell colour, but I hadn't touched anything in terms of colour. So that was my first bold statement that I made with the place, and it gave me a bit more confidence to think outside the box elsewhere. Because the bathroom is such a small small space in the grand scheme of things. You're not in there, you don't have to live in the space. It's quite a safe space to experiment a little bit. So that would be my advice on bathrooms. If you're worried about experimenting with colours, etc., try it in the bathroom, because you can shut the door and pretend it never happened and redo it. But yeah, in terms of the before, there's not much I can say about it really, except they've got Aesop soap, which is chef's kiss. Obviously love Aesop. Very minimalistic. I think it could do with a bit more. They could have, added some artwork on the wall or a bit of greenery in the shower. So we've got eucalyptus in there, which just adds a bit more luxury to the space. But there's not an awful lot I can say in terms of what I like and what I don't like. I just feel like the before is very, very clinical and very minimal, very white. But if that's your start, I know bathrooms are a funny one because it's got to be easy to clean, it's got to feel like a clean space. So I totally get why they didn't touch it, but I much prefer it now. And then finally, we've got the before pictures of the bedroom. The bedroom is a really nice size in our apartment, which we're so grateful for. I think it's very plain, again, very simple. They've not done an awful lot with the space, but I really like the wooden bed frame that they have. It's really raw wood, but I think it adds a real natural feel to the space in what otherwise would feel very modern and very new build vibe. And then also they've obviously got the rice pendant lampshade, and I think that's the same as the one I've got in the kitchen, which is nice, but I feel like they could have just got a bigger one, again, a statement piece of lighting in there, because otherwise it just looks a bit lost in the space. Because of the size of the room, I think they could have gone larger with that and made a bit more of a focal point over the bed. Colour scheme, I don't really like the cushion colours. That's just my personal opinion, and I don't really like the bedding. But the Fortnum & Mason basket, really nice. And then you've got a plant in the corner, and then the artwork on the right, not too fussed about the one on the left. And how they kind of randomly placed it, I think is quite cool. Obviously got the main artwork over the bed where the bed is situated, and then one to the right. I think that works quite well, but I don't think 2 line drawings, I think it's a bit overkill. And then on the wall as you walk in on the left, what they've done is they've got IKEA chest of drawers and aligned the wall with it. I think it's a missed opportunity there, because I think it would look really good if you were to paint the drawers a certain colour and put handles on them and just give it a bit more character. Everything's very white. It feels very IKEA, which, I just feel like there's a missed opportunity there to make the story look a bit more seamless in the space. I would have gone for like a nice green, like matte green, or a lighter green shade, or even a light blue, just to add that point of difference. I think it would look really cool. Again, curtains, not fond of those shorter curtains. I think they could have been better with a Venetian blind or a Roman blind with a stripe to it. There's just a lot more that could be done in this space. The corner was very minimal, and I don't think they've got any bedside lighting either. So yeah, super minimal. I do like the tapestry work they've got next to the mirrored wardrobe. I think that's really cool, and I might look into seeing if there's anything I can take inspiration from for that, because I do like that. But yeah, carpet is the carpet. It's difficult to change out carpet, and I haven't changed out the carpet, so I'm not going to say anything. Oh, I just had to get a hot water bottle because I am freezing my little toes off today. It is cold. So flipping to now in the bedroom, we obviously have a similar pendant lamp. Ours is from H&M Home, bit of a different shape. I thought it was going to be bigger than it was, which was a bit disappointing, to be honest. I wanted it to be more of a focal point above the bed, which I do. I love the shape of pendant lamp, but I just think it would be much better if it had a bit more size to it and was more of a focal point. So that's definitely something I've taken on board. Unfortunately, I'm not going to change it out because it costs a lot of money. What we try to do is keep it as calm as possible. So we've had the discussion about painting the walls different colours, but actually what we look for in our bedroom is just a place where we can totally unwind and not have too much to look at. So we've tried to keep it as minimal as possible, but to still feel like there's life in the space. So we've done that by adding, obviously we've got our big rubber plant in there, which adds that sense of life. It brings the height into the room. So at the moment, everything's quite low level. So we've tried to add a bit more height just by including that rubber plant in the space. And also the plant pot that we bought for it was a terracotta one from Facebook Marketplace, I believe, for like £15. And it just looks a bit more weathered. So that would be a tip of mine, is that if you're looking for a terracotta plant, then definitely buy used. It doesn't look as brand new. Terracotta, I think, looks much better when it's been a bit more worn in and weathered. The thing next I would change in our bedroom now is, or add to our bedroom now, is a headboard. We currently don't have anything to lean back against onto the wall in the mornings having our coffee. I feel like a headboard would just really elevate that space a bit more and make it feel a bit more put together. So that's definitely going to be a project of mine in the next couple of months, to see if I can find something on Facebook Marketplace and then refoam and then upholster. It might go terribly wrong, it might not. We'll see what happens, but it's all kind of fun and games, I guess. And that's kind of inspired from, I went to Soho Home over the weekend and it had beautiful beds that had loads of different textures on it and loads of different patterns, and it's really kick-started my thinking for the bedroom. And then the other thing I was keen to do is, where we've got the carpet that we're not so keen on, is to start thinking about adding runners alongside of each side of the bed. Because our bed is so central in the room, I think it would work quite well. Just add that additional texture to the room. I was thinking along the lines of jute rug styles, but I know that the fibres can get everywhere and it's not particularly nice getting out of bed and the first thing your bare feet hit is the rough kind of jute rug. I need to do a bit more research on that one and have a look on Pinterest as to what works well alongside a bed and for runner rugs. But I think that would really help to mask my dislike for the carpet and elevate the bed a little bit more. The other thing that we've included is lots of mirrors in the space, because the room is actually north facing and we don't get an awful lot of light in there. So we're having to utilise as many mirrors as we possibly can to bounce the light around the room and make it feel a bit brighter. So I think we've done that quite well. We've got our Hovet mirror from IKEA that I spray painted black, the rim's black, and that's made it look more upmarket, I would say. And then the eggshell paint on the wall, so keeping it white and bright, has helped to bounce the light around the room more so with the help of the mirrors. So I think both parties, so myself, Jack, and the previous owners, have gone along the lines of minimalism in the bedroom, just to help with that feeling of calmness and not feeling too busy when you're trying to unwind and relax and go to sleep. It's very peaceful and minimal. So yeah, I think for the time being it might stay quite similar, apart from popping in those additions like the headboard and then the runner rugs, etc. I think it might stay quite similar just because we don't want to interfere with it too much in terms of how it feels to us as a space already. But who knows? Anything can happen. Never say never. There's always going to be something that changes or something that we're not too keen on in the next few months. So we will see how that one goes. And that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to have a look at my video today. I hope that was helpful. It was really nice for me to have a look at the old photos and reminisce of how far we've come. The trial and error, blood, sweat and tears, etc. You know how it goes with interiors and painting and DIYs and stuff. So has been really fun to look over and reflect and see what I can do in the future to make it even more homely and feel like our space. I hope you enjoyed it too, and if you haven't already, go check out my Instagram. It's Araya Polly Studio. I upload lots of reels on there, day-to-day kind of bits of what I'm up to or projects or whatever. So yeah, go check that out. But in the meantime, I will see you in the next week or so, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.